Zandor stepped onto the first Guardian path and uncovered the truth of the Builder's legacy. A Guardian was never chosen because they were the strongest, but because they were willing to continue when certainty ended. Within the Hall of Guardians, he witnessed the legacy of those who had carried that responsibility before him. Their purpose was not conquest or rule, it was protection. At the heart of that legacy, Zandor discovered the first promise. Power existed to protect the future, never to decide that future for others. His journey then led him to the hidden Observatory, where the Builders had watched civilizations across the galaxy and preserved warnings meant for those willing to listen. What Zandor discovered there changed the path ahead. The Guardian had learned from the past. Now, he had to return to those who still needed him. The recovered record continues. Zine 32, The Return from the Mountain. The first duty of every Guardian was never to change the galaxy. It was to return to those who still needed them. Frontier Archives, Guardian Codex.
The Frontier. Archives recovered. Audio log entry. Jokotitse. Classification. Declassified. Location. Western Crystal Mountains. Planet Kheros. Event. The Guardian returns. Status. Verified historical record.
Morning sunlight spilled across the western mountains. The crystal peaks reflected thousands of shades of blue across the valley below. For the first time since entering the hidden Builder world, Zandor stood beneath an open sky. The wind carried the familiar scent of crystal forests. Bird-like sky-glide mantas drifted silently upon the warm morning currents. Far below, the Ashari village slowly returned to life. Children laughed. Builders' memories rested beneath the mountain. Life continued above it. Zandor remained standing upon the narrow mountain ledge. He looked back toward the cliff where the hidden passage had vanished. Nothing remained, only ordinary stone. Anyone passing nearby would believe the mountain had always been empty.
You kept your promise.
The Guardian symbol beneath his armor answered with one calm pulse. Not because the Builders still lived, because their promise did. He began descending the narrow mountain path. Every step felt strangely familiar, not because he had walked here before, because the mountain no longer felt foreign, it felt known. Far below, Luma suddenly opened her eyes. The singing crystal hovering before her became perfectly still. Its gentle melody faded into silence.
He's here.
Kyle looked toward the surrounding mountains.
I don't see anyone.
Luma smiled.
You will.
The crystal forest remained quiet. The mountain had stopped calling, now it simply watched. High above, a lone figure appeared along the western ridge. The morning sun reflected softly across graphite armor, carrying faint blue lines beneath its surface. No dramatic entrance, no heroic music. Only one Guardian quietly returning home. Kyle saw him first.
Zandor.
His voice echoed across the valley. Ashari families stopped what they were doing. One after another, every face turned toward the western cliffs. For several long moments, no one moved, not because they feared him, because something about him had changed. Not his armor, not his face, his presence.
The mountain accepted him.
No explanation followed, none was needed. Every elder standing there felt the same quiet certainty. The living mountain no longer waited. It had found its guardian. Zandor reached the edge of the village. No speeches greeted him, no ceremony, only grateful faces. The Builders had taught him that ordinary moments mattered most. This was one of them. Luma stepped forward slowly. The singing crystal floated between them. Its light remained calm, steady, peaceful.
You listened.
Zandor smiled gently.
I finally learned how.
The crystal answered with a single harmonic note. The same note Zandor had first heard deep within the Guardian path. Now it sounded like welcome rather than invitation. Far above Kheros, General Vorak continued watching the valley through long-range observation sensors. The Guardian had returned. The harmonic field had stabilized. Nothing about the situation fit Dominion doctrine, yet everything had changed.
So the Guardian walks among them.
Commander Rexus looked toward the general.
Should we prepare another assault?
Vorak remained silent for several seconds.
No, we observe.
The bridge officers exchanged uncertain glances. For perhaps the first time, the Dominion chose patience instead of conquest. Deep beneath the western mountains, the 12 pillars of the Oath Chamber remained dark. The Hall of Guardians waited. The hidden observatory continued watching distant civilizations. The silent warning remained sealed. The mountain returned to quiet vigilance, not asleep, watching, waiting, remembering. The Frontier Archives would later record that the Guardian's return marked the end of one journey and the beginning of another. The Builders had entrusted their past. Now, the future belonged to those still living. No one rushed toward him. No celebration broke the quiet of the valley. The Ashari had learned something during the days of waiting. Some moments deserved silence before words. Zandor looked across the settlement. The Dominion attack had left its mark. Crystal dwellings still bore fractures. Temporary shelters stood where homes had once rested. Children carried water beside elders, repairing damaged crystal structures. Life had survived, but it had not escaped unchanged. The Guardian symbol beneath his armor remained calm. It offered no guidance. The mountain had already given him everything it could. The next decisions belonged to the living. The elder stepped forward slowly. He studied Zandor's face for several long moments, not searching for answers, searching for peace.
You carry them with you.
Zandor nodded once.
I carry their promise.
Karam lowered his head respectfully, not to the Guardian, to the responsibility he had accepted. Around them, the Ashari slowly returned to their work. No command had been given, no ceremony announced. The village simply continued living. The Builders would have approved. Luma walked beside Zandor toward the edge of the crystal ridge. The singing crystal drifted quietly between them. Unlike before, it no longer searched for hidden voices. It rested, its purpose fulfilled.
The mountain is quieter.
It doesn't need to call anymore.
Luma smiled gently.
It knows you listen.
For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt comfortable, not empty. The kind shared between people who had witnessed something words could never fully explain. From the highest ridge, the entire valley stretched before them. Crystal forests shimmered beneath the morning sun. Rivers reflected brilliant blue light toward the distant mountains. Far beyond, Dominion landing craft moved slowly across the occupied plains. The war had not paused. Only the Guardian had changed.
They're still here,
Yes,
and they'll come again.
Luma looked toward the distant Dominion positions.
they always do.
The words carried no fear, only truth. The Ashari had lived beside uncertainty for generations. The Dominion had merely given it a face. Zandor rested one hand upon the crystal railing overlooking the valley. The Guardian symbol pulsed once, not because danger approached, because the living world surrounded him once again. He finally understood the Builders. Their greatest achievement had never been their cities, nor their archives, nor even the Guardian roads. It had been preserving ordinary life long enough for another sunrise to arrive. General Vorak watched the Guardian through long-range magnification. The distance prevented detailed observation, yet one fact remained unmistakable. The harmonic field surrounding Zandor no longer fluctuated. It had stabilized.
General, the Guardian appears unchanged.
Vorak remained silent.
No, he appears.
For perhaps the first time in years, the general struggled to find the correct word.
Resolved.
No Dominion instrument could measure what Vorak had seen. Some changes existed beyond technology. Far beneath the western mountains, the Builder world returned to patient silence. It no longer needed to search for a guardian. It had found one. The next chapter would be written beneath open skies, not hidden chambers. The valley slowly awakened beneath the morning sun. Crystal leaves shimmered gently as a cool breeze swept across the forest. The familiar sounds of the Ashari settlement gradually returned. Children laughed. Craftsmen repaired fractured crystal homes. Families gathered around newly lit cooking fires. Life had quietly reclaimed its place. Zandor stood watching. For the first time since the Dominion invasion, he did not immediately search the horizon for danger. He looked instead at the people. The builders had taught him that civilizations were measured not by the wars they fought, but by the lives they protected. The young Ashari cautiously approached. He carried a small crystal fragment in both hands. Its surface reflected the morning light.
I found this after the battle.
He offered the crystal to Zandor, not as a gift, as a question.
Should we rebuild it or remember it?
The question caught Zandor by surprise. Only days earlier, Kale would never have asked it. The guardian symbol beneath his armor pulsed once, not answering, reminding. Zandor gently accepted the crystal. For several moments, he simply studied the fractured surface.
We do both.
Both?
We rebuild because people still need a home. We remember so no one believes the damage never happened.
Kale slowly nodded. The answer seemed simple, yet everyone standing nearby understood its meaning.
The builders would have agreed.
Several elders exchanged thoughtful glances. For generations, their stories had spoken of the living mountain. Now, they listened to a guardian who had walked within it. Luma stepped forward. The singing crystal floated gently beside her shoulder. Unlike before, its light remained soft and steady.
The mountain is still listening.
Zandor smiled.
Then we should give it something worth remembering.
The crystal answered with one quiet harmonic tone. Across the village, other small crystals responded, one after another, not loudly, almost playfully. The Ashari children stopped working. They looked toward the surrounding forests. The entire valley seemed alive with gentle echoes, not because the builders had returned, because Kheros itself had awakened. The Oblivion Spear continued its silent orbit. General Vorak stood alone before the planetary display. Dozens of Dominion officers waited behind him. None spoke.
General, the harmonic activity is spreading through the crystal forests.
Natural resonance.
The officer hesitated.
No, it appears responsive.
The bridge fell silent, responsive, not mechanical, not random. Something beneath Kheros had begun answering the world above.
It remembers.
No one asked what he meant. Some questions had become more dangerous than answers. The morning wind carried the quiet song of the living mountain across the valley. Zandor looked toward the distant Dominion encampments, then toward the Ashari village behind him. The contrast had never been clearer. One side prepared for conquest, the other prepared for tomorrow. The Guardian's path had never been about choosing sides. It had always been about protecting the possibility that tomorrow could still be different. Far beneath the western mountains, the builder world waited in patient silence, not sleeping, watching, listening, ready for whatever choice its guardian would make next. The valley settled into the quiet rhythm of a new morning. Hammers shaped fresh crystal. Children carried water through narrow pathways. The smell of warm food drifted between the rebuilt homes. Life continued, not because danger had passed, because life always insisted on continuing. Zandor walked slowly through the Ashari village. No one followed him. No one bowed. The Ashari had never sought rulers. They welcomed neighbors. The builders would have approved. An elderly Ashari woman carefully repaired a fractured crystal lantern outside her home. She looked up as Zandor passed. Without speaking, she smiled, then quietly returned to her work. The simple gesture carried more meaning than any celebration could have. Trust, not because of what he had done, because of who he had chosen to become. The guardian symbol beneath his armor remained completely still. For the first time, it asked nothing of him. The promise no longer required instruction. It required living. Zandor reached the edge of the village. Beyond the final crystal homes, the forest stretched toward the Dominion occupation. Somewhere beyond those distant ridges, General Vorak continued preparing for whatever came next. The conflict had not ended. It had merely changed.
We're running out of time.
Elder Karam joined him. The old Ashari followed Zandor's gaze toward the distant Dominion patrols.
We always were.
The elder's answer carried no fear, only experience.
The question was never how much time we had. It was always what we chose to do with it.
Zandor smiled faintly. The builders had spoken the same truth in many different ways. Now he heard it in the voice of the Ashari. Luma approached quietly. The singing crystal floated peacefully beside her. Its light reflected softly across the crystal trees surrounding the village.
They're awake.
The builders.
Luma slowly shook her head.
No, the people.
Zandor looked once more across the village. Children rebuilding crystal walls, families sharing food, elders teaching the youngest how to shape new homes from broken stone. The mountain had awakened. Now, so had hope. The Oblivion Spear continued its silent orbit. General Vorak remained alone before the observation display. Kheros slowly rotated beneath the Dominion flagship. Beautiful, ancient, patient.
General, awaiting orders.
Vorak remained silent. For a long moment, he simply watched the world below.
Hold position.
No advance.
No, the next move belongs to the Guardian.
No officer understood why the Supreme Commander of the Dominion would willingly surrender the initiative, yet no one questioned the order. Something beneath Kheros had changed. Even the Dominion could feel it. Morning sunlight reached its highest point. The wind carried the quiet harmony of the living mountain through every crystal tree. No voice spoke. No memory appeared. The mountain no longer needed to call. Its guardian had returned. The frontier archives would later record that history rarely changed in a single battle. It changed when ordinary people chose hope despite knowing fear would return. The builders had understood that truth. Now, so did their guardian. Far beneath the western mountains, the archives waited. The Hall of Guardians waited. The hidden observatory watched. The silent warning endured. The promise remained. Patiently, until it was needed once more. End of Part 1. Continues in Part 2.